Mike Whitlow has stepped down as managing director of ECR Minerals. To find out why and what that means for the gold exploration and development company, I'm delighted to be joined by him. So, Mike, before I ask why you left, what attracted you to the business in the first place, and what was your relationship like with the company way back in 2023?
Perverse intrigue, probably. I mean, had I have known what I was going to get myself involved in, I may not have, may not have done it to start with. But it's been a great learning experience, and it's certainly been something that I've enjoyed thoroughly. Feel a little bit sad that we're or my period of employment with the company as managing director has ended with the current share price not too dissimilar to where I started. Hurts my feelings a bit. I think we're worth a lot more than the market values us. As you probably know, when you sit as a director of a company, you're not allowed to make comments on what you think the value of your business is. I'm not a director anymore, so I can say what I like.
And
Um,
is that the reason you're leaving, Mike? So that you're
a big reason, yeah, one of the
unhappy?
re there's always this misconception that there must have been some sort of a dispute, falling out, something that's gone on. Why would you leave so quickly, with immediate effect? How did it all come around? Been speaking about it for a few weeks. No, I mean, I notified the board yesterday. Um, I understand how things can get out in the market. So whenever we raised any money with this company, I was very, very conscious that we did it quickly, because the market has this knack of leaking information and certain comments being made. And my concern was with the resignation really from ECR is that the um, if we give it a few weeks, we give it some time, I would leave myself open to people manipulating through article the reason behind my step into one side. So the decision was made pretty quickly. I've just spent a week in Canada on holiday with my family for the first time in since joining ECR. I worked 4 of the 7 or 8 days that I was away as well, so it wasn't really a holiday, but it felt like it to me because it's been a busy period. And um, the decision was the company's it's in great shape. It's got plenty of cash, regardless what people say. The operations are going really well. We've got a very busy news period ahead of us, and I guess I'm using the phrases we and our and us still, so that should give people a good indication as to how I feel about the business. And look, there's nobody better who knows where the company's up to than I, and I've got a bit more freedom now to articulate that. And I don't think we were getting a fair bang for our buck in the market. I don't think the valuation's been fair at all, Sarah. And I think, we're worth a lot more and we're in good shape. I think there'll be a few changes over the coming days and weeks, which I hope the market will start to understand why I've taken the decision I've taken. But look, this isn't about me. It does hurt my feelings a little bit that the share price is languishing, and I'm kind of going out under a bit of a grey cloud. But at the same time, my motivation and focus is for the best of and the greater good for the company and shareholders. And I've got to suck it up a little bit, and yeah, I think we're going to see a number of changes in the near future that I believe will be complementary to the existing board. And yeah, just an extended thanks to those two guys for giving me the opportunity for working as part of a very small team to keep the overhead down, and just generally for being all around decent fellas. So yeah, extended thanks to Andrew and Nick as well.
That's good of you. But two things. First of all, you're not completely severing your connection with ECR, are you? You're not completely left the building.
No, no, look, at the end of the day, there needs to be an orderly handover and transition for the business. And the only way that can happen is for me to stay involved. I've been on the phone this morning, sent you an email to say we could do this a bit earlier, and then didn't respond to you because a call came in from, albeit Australia, and then I spent my time there. So again, apologies to you for not coming back to you a bit quicker and a bit sooner. But yeah, no, my workload will continue on as it's been for quite some time. But yeah, I think there's a bit more flexibility, and I think there's couple of new faces coming in. The dynamics, or I believe that's what will happen. We'll wait and see. But the dynamics should change, and for that to happen, me being me, I'm probably better taking the decision that I've taken, which I think is the right one. It's the right one for the company. It's the right one for shareholders. It should be the right one for me as well from a financial perspective because I can see the company and start performing a lot better than it has done over the coming weeks and months.
Okay, so you keep mentioning the share price. Do you think
Mhm.
that you being there was
Yes, I do. Absolutely.
was responsible for keeping the share price where it is? Because you sound a bit miffed.
No, I think what happens is, understandably, shareholders and the market has been particularly frustrated because they see the gold price rip roaring ahead and the antimony price, and the companies, many of the companies in this peer group, of our peer group or the small cap markets, have not been getting that response. We've seen a couple that have done well, and they've had some great news to support that. But the frustration that the market and shareholders have had is fair, really. I understand where it's come from, but I don't necessarily think it's specific. But I do think in order to keep the energy and to keep driving small cap companies on, there has to be change. It's the death of these small cap companies if a board suddenly starts just, crowing along with each other and barking in agreement on everything. The energy levels start to deplete and it comes down, and these small cap companies need drive and energy and an enterprise and and a dynamic and dynamo within it. And I felt that the last 6 months, the market was growing tired and frustrated with the status quo, and it needed some changes. And I think the board have recognised that. The board, we've had many discussions, we've tried a number of transactions that have not, worked out for whatever reason. Um, you do sort of question: are we getting beaten up for doing the right thing here? We're trying to we're trying to do, these are quite brave endeavors in some respects, Sarah. We've looked to try and do a number of transactions which we've withdrawn from because they've not stacked up as well as they've been presented to us to start with. And then you sort of getting beaten up then, aren't you? Because you're looking to do a transaction that's going to have a material impact to the valuation, but then if it's not right for shareholders and you decide, we need to step away from this, you're then getting beaten up by the investors because they're frustrated that you can't get a transaction over the line. And it's been a bit of a bit of to and fro, and yeah, I think we need to make changes. I think we will. The company will be making a number of changes, positive changes.
So
And it
you
probably, yeah.
so Mike, you're sounding a little bit wounded there. So you keep talking about the market, but do you think that you have missed being a market maker because there is the cult of celebrity influencer
Yeah,
surrounding you? And I'm wondering, if ECR is going to benefit in a way by not having their celebrity influencer on board.
yeah. Um, I don't know about celebrity influencer. I think that was a thing of the past. We certainly know to have a lot of fun. Hopefully, we'll have a little bit more again at some point. But I'm not wounded. I'm not wounded. I guess I'm trying to articulate and acknowledge the frustration that people have had, and I'm trying to give some explanation as to the this. The one thing I never really understood is what it was like to be on that side of the fence, and now I do. And now I understand it fully, and I get the frustration. You almost get to a point where you think if the market's not giving you a fair valuation, resentment sets in. And I never wanted that. I come from being a market participant. I come from, building a career from being a market commentator and generally ruffling the feathers of people like myself, really, who were board directors. Um, so I never wanted the resentment, and I felt that was happening. I think there was a little bit of resentment on my side because I felt we were being cheated. And I could see the frustration from people who put the hard-earned money into the company and supported us and supported me. Um, and I could feel it from them. I get messages of people and they try and be polite about it, but you could see them getting a bit annoyed. And it's not. it's not personal either. It's not personal. I don't think there's ever a personal aspect. I just think it was a case of people have backed you, they give you a fair amount of the time and support, and they're not getting the result they want, and they deserve it. They deserve better, and the company deserves it. We
So
deserve to be valued.
So will somebody else be able to do what you were unable to do? So who's going to fill your full-time shoes?
Yeah. Well, look, I always said that I was never too proud to step aside if I felt that better people in a better position we're able to join the company, or I wouldn't step aside until I felt like the strategy that we were applying could be executed. And I believe that we can do that. I think the assets and the development that we've got going on in Queensland at the minute is significant. I think the results we're having, people don't really fully understand. They see Adam in the field panning off a little bit of gold in a pan, and they don't get it. They kind of somehow think that they've invested in a company where Adam spends all day panning on a riverbank trying to find a little nugget of gold. That's not what's happening. We've got a drill rig out in the field that's drilling a number of shallow holes. We're getting some of that pay dirt, from the down hole, and we're processing it to see how much colour is in the pan, what sort of estimate of gold we're seeing, the quality, the purity, and the recoverability of it. And we're able to do that by drilling, taking the sample of that material, putting it through a pan, getting a visual idea, doing some analysis, and then sending it to the laboratory to give us, some scientific confirmation of what we believe is happening. And then we can start to build that scalability and the size of the project at Blue Mountain to go into full production, at which point we'll expect to generate revenue for the first time in the company's history. And I think we're right on the cusp of that. So, as a director, it's sometimes hard to explain what a company's doing and why it's doing it. And then because of the frustration and the nature of the market that we've been in for the last couple of years, this misinformation starts to be propagated around the environment, and it's not professional for me as any director to spend all day answering and those comments and continually the back and forth. It really isn't. So then you feel a little bit hogtied,
Let's
don't you?
so let's
So for
talk
me,
So let's talk, let's put the misinformation aside. So let's very briefly, I've only got three more questions, very briefly remind people about what has been achieved
yeah,
because when you came to ECR Minerals and Andrew and Nick came on board as well, it was a smorgasbord of a cornucopia of various projects. And I think collectively you streamlined the
yeah,
business, didn't you?
yeah. I mean, we had a couple of employees in an office in London. We closed the office and the employees moved on, mainly because we didn't need two full-time staff. We did need some part-time staff. Then you go through the whole process of training. We brought in a new sort of financial controller into the business to tidy things up, which she's done fantastically well. Um, we've cleared up some of the historical things that needed to be addressed. Really got the company into a position where it's a bit more sort of efficient and effective. But the result of that is a lot of the work's been done by a very small group. We've got out in the field, we've investigated and done work on all of the assets, which is no mean feat. Have the results been as good as people would have hoped? I think the results have been fantastic. I just don't think we've had the recognition in the market. And you could say, well, you're deluded, Mike. You're deluded, but being an investor a long time, and I know what results work and the ones that don't. I also understand and have to accept that the market makes its own mind up, and you can't beat it. You've got to go with it. You've either got to get out on some dry land, or you've got to go with the flow. And the flow's, gone against a lot of the small caps at the minute. But I believe that'll change. When it does change, it'll be quite a significant one.
So what is going to happen? You speak about the market. What is going to happen to the 70 million shares that you own? Am I going to be reporting about you being a big seller in the near future?
I don't think so. No, I mean, if the share price goes up 5 times the multiple, which I think it should do and could do, um, would it be rude of me to sell a few shares and actually get paid for the work that I've done for the last few years? It'd be nice, wouldn't it? But no, I don't have any immediate intention of doing anything in that regard at this present moment. I mean, look, the landscape can change, and I've always said this is, should the landscape change, if the environment changes, if the value proposition, the investment theory changes, you have to change with it. But right now, I've got an extreme amount of confidence, in the company, in the board, in the potential changes that I would hope to see, um, and the assets. So, for me, I think that the stock's an absolute buy at the current level, to be honest. And I've taken shares as remuneration for the best part of 2 years. So, I can't be any more confident. I have had, some people say, why don't you buy some more? Well, I've worked me, slogged me guts out, and not being paid to take the shares, to earn in, to be a stakeholder in this business. There's a point where you say, well, how much exposure can one person take? But I wouldn't rule it out. I wouldn't rule out going back to the market and actually buying them here. I'd definitely say if they soften, that becomes even more attractive. Um,
I
but
suppose
look,
you've got to be careful though, Mike, because you're still involved with ECR. It's still a publicly listed,
mm,
regulated entity,
it
so
is,
you
yeah.
are governed by certain
I am.
FCA rules. So
I
I'm
am.
just wondering why you've still got an involvement with ECR. Will this prevent a return to full-blown outraged dock holiday, the scourge
No,
of underperforming businesses
no,
and
no,
lazy
no. Look,
executives? So
at
you
the
can
end of the
act.
day, no. Look, at the end of the day, I've got a moral obligation and I've got a requirement, right, to make sure that if and being so soon from leaving the company, there's information that I'm in receipt of, and I have to be mindful of that. I don't think there's a huge amount of information right now that would be considered. It put me as an out and out offsider or outsider. Again, probably because strategically this was the right time for me to make that transition and that step to one side. But I'm mindful of market etiquette and rules, and I'll comply with it as much as necessary. But no, I'm gonna be unleashing my own views on the market and in certain events and situations as well, should it be required. And look, I think we're gonna go and have a bit more fun like we used to do. Hopefully, I've got a slightly different um, appreciation for people who are running public companies, given I've spent a few years in the hot seat. But no, I think we're gonna have a bit of fun, and we can get to comment on a few of these companies, and hopefully maybe you and I can chat again and give some thoughts on certain businesses and events and expectation. And yeah, well, I think I'm in a good position with ECR because I understand where it is, but I'm not necessarily going to be continually kept on the inside. I've specifically asked not to be honest, because I don't want to put the company at risk either. I think
Okay.
it's important that the integrity of the board and the growth trajectory it's on and the changes that I would hope and expect to happen. Um, it doesn't need a third party on the outside meddling too much with it. But I obviously do understand where the company's at and the assets we've got, and I expect there'll be some significant changes potentially in the future.
Okay.
Otherwise, why step aside, right? I mean, the only reason you step aside is because you believe that there's somebody or a situation that's better than the one that you're able to offer. And I had a guy message me today to say, well, I don't know if I believe that, Mike. I mean, you've done a great job. And I said, well, the market doesn't seem to think so. And
You have.
sometimes we have to swallow your pride and get on and let those changes happen and support it for the greater good, which is, I guess, going back to what I said when I started the interview again.
Okay, so you have been having some pats on the back. I can still hear that you're slightly wounded, and it's understandable today.
I'm not, honestly, I'm not. Do you know what I think it is? I've had a holiday, Sarah, for the first time in a long time. A long time. I mean, I've been at ECR for a couple of years. There's been no holiday. I mean, the numbers of every single weekend I've done some work for ECR since joining the company. I think what it is I'm just a bit more relaxed. I'm not wounded. I'm actually just a bit more relaxed, and I'm confident about the decisions that we've been making, and I'm confident about the business, and I'm confident that while it does hurt me feelings a little bit, wounded. I'm not sure is the phrase I would use, but it hurts me feelings that this period, this event has come at a time where it's not necessarily being reflected in the share price. So it kind of puts a bit of a grey cloud over the
Okay,
term that I have with the business.
okay. So yeah, you've already said that you are being consistent. So finally, when we first started talking some 5 years ago, you would only do audio interviews with me. I couldn't see your face. So I'm just
Mm.
wondering, are you now moving back into the shadows, or would you consider
Yeah,
turning,
yeah, I probably am. Yeah.
or would you consider another managing director position?
Um, Look, one of the things that the market's probably not aware of is I've run a private company for quite some time, and that company's had a lot of success. Um, I believe ECR will have the same success as well, to be honest with you. I've kept it separate because it has a full management team, full board of directors. My role was putting that company together with a co-founder back in. We started before COVID, um, and that's always run independent of anything with ECR. My focus has been on ECR, but that company's had a lot of success recently. I enjoy it a lot more. I've enjoyed that experience a lot more. So being a managing director, possibly, running into sort of public markets, I don't know. I don't know if the right opportunity presented itself, possibly, maybe there's a non-exec role. Maybe there's somebody out there who says, well, you know, I'm an expert in my own right, but we could do with just I don't know, somebody who's got a broader understanding of things, and maybe there's a non-exec role that'll come up that'll be attractive. I don't really know. I think what's important is, for me, I'm just trying to build a strong legacy for myself and as a family, right? So the way that I've been able to do that is the rump of the success has come from me being involved in the markets, from trading markets, funding businesses, starting companies from the beginning, and probably the public market side's not been as successful in respect to the way that the valuations have been attributed to ECR in particular. So yeah, I don't know. Not really given much thought, honestly. I really haven't. Maybe I just sound wounded.
Early days, but thank you.
It's early days, yeah.
The announcement's only just come out. I really appreciated that you gave me a call to talk to you. And yeah, good
Yeah.
luck with whatever you're going to do, Mike Whitlow. Thank you. Take care.
Cheers. Thanks. Take care.